Hey guys, it's Mr. Kennedy. I'm back with a short video on early Earth and the origin of life hypothesis. All right, if we talk about the history of Earth, we basically start with the solar system that is believed to be about 12 billion years old. The Earth was believed to be about 4.5 billion years ago, and first life appeared about 3.5 to 4 billion years ago. Now, the discrepancy between 4.5 and the 3.5 and 4 is that it took time for the Earth to cool, so we don't have any fossil records dating any further back than that. Prokaryotes came about, which were single-celled organisms. They were stromatolites between 3.5 and 2 billion years ago. Then you had oxygen start to accumulate because you had photosynthetic organisms, cyanobacteria, that started to be around about 2.7. Then you had the first eukaryotic life, then multicellular eukaryotes, and then you had animals being diversified, and then colonization of the land, so moving from the ocean to land. So you can kind of see the progression here. All right, the origin of life. Spontaneous generation is one possibility of the origin of life, and that specifically means that life comes from non-living things, such as it's not so far-fetched when you think people used to believe that when it rained, that frogs came from rain because whenever it rained, there was frogs. So back in the day, that doesn't make it didn't make crazy sense. But biogenesis is the belief that living things can only give rise to living things. This was coined by Louis Pasteur, the one who pasteurized milk, and he actually did an experiment in which he disproved spontaneous generation. He simply took what's called a gooseneck flask. It's a round glass bowl that has a neck that looks like an S, and it prevents anything from landing inside of the flask itself. And he put a nutrient broth inside the flask, let it set for many, many, many days, and nothing ever grew. Then he broke the neck off the flask, and within the next 24 hours, there was something growing on the broth. So if spontaneous generation was true, there'd have been something growing all along, not simply when it was exposed to air. Now, there is what's called the four-stage origin of life hypothesis, and it basically goes like this: that it started out with abiotic synthesis of organic monomers. So monomers, remember, make up proteins or amino acids, and make up lipids or fatty acid and glycerol and 3 fatty acids. A nucleotide makes up a nucleic acid. Carbohydrates make up, monosaccharides make up carbohydrates. So abiotic synthesis means that without life, synthesis was started of these monomers. These monomers were put together to make polymers. That's step 2. Step 3, you had some type of self-replicating mechanism of genetic material, believed to be RNA first. And then you had these protobionts, which were precursors to prokaryotes, in which all this was housed inside of a molecular packaging. All right. Now, when we talk about organic monomers and polymer synthesis, we have to talk about Oparin and Haldane. Oparin believed that what's called the primordial soup theory. He believed that you had all the organic compounds that were on primitive Earth. They were rained down into the oceans, into the water. You had lightning that provided energy to these organisms, and by chance, you could create an amino acid or a monomer. Remember, there was no oxygen at this time because there were no photosynthetic organisms, so there was nothing there in the atmosphere. Now, Stanley Miller and Hal Urey were two who redid this experiment in, I think it was 1953, and they proved that it was possible. They actually created some amino acids, and they said it was possible that Oparin's theory could happen. Sidney Fox invented what we call the protocell, and he said that there was proteinoid formation, or abiotic polypeptides were formed from organic monomers. Remember, organic means it has C in it, so it was formed from organic monomers that were dripped on hot sand or clay, which would represent primitive Earth. And just a little bit more about Oparin. The protobionts are precursors to prokaryotes. It was done by abiotic synthesis. If you hear that, that means A means without, bio means living. So without living things, it's creation of. And it's basically molecules coated by a protein membrane. Now, Stanley Miller, this is Stanley Miller. He worked at the University of Chicago, and this is the apparatus they used to demonstrate early Earth, and it was possible to create amino acids, hydrocarbons, nitrogen bases, etc. He didn't create anything that was a living thing, but he said it might be possible if he could do that in his lab. Now, abiotic genetic replication, the first genetic material was thought to be RNA. RNA, the reason we think that is because RNA, even then, DNA replication, you have to have an RNA segment in order to get it starting on the lagging strain. So, RNA is believed to be first. So, did we have some way of going from RNA to DNA? Was there a template? So, that's kind of a question that we're still looking. Now, there are 5 major lineages of life. There are 5 kingdoms. You know them as Monera, protists, plants, fungi, and animals. Now, Monera has more diversity than all the other 4 kingdoms combined. So it was kind of egocentric on our part to put them as one kingdom. So later on, scientists have broken that down into 3 domain systems, in which they've broken Monera down into bacteria and archaea, are the 2 parts that used to be Monera, and the 4 kingdoms are now grouped into eukaryotes. So you might hear sometimes of a 6th kingdom system, and it's simply bacteria, archaea, and then the 4 that you already had, protists, fungi, plant, and animal, which are the eukaryotes, meaning they were eukaryotes. And these are just some pictures of the different domains. You have the domain bacteria, domain archaeobacteria, and then domain eukarya, which is what you're familiar with. All right, guys, I hope this helped you a little bit with the origin of life, and I will talk to you soon.